and welcome to TSP Weekly. This is your tech startup podcast for Monday, March 16th, 2015. Today we are recording at Auvik's office. We're here recording with the CEO of Auvik. Am I pronouncing this right? Auvik?
Auvik.
Auvik, yeah?
It's like
Auvik.
Australia. Auvik.
Auvik, okay.
Auvik.
That's right. So they've been gracious enough to let us use this wonderful meeting room with lots of natural light. It's great. I'm sure you who are listening to this only in the audio format don't care that we have lots of natural light, but it's
beautiful
nice for us.
View today.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So let's do some introductions. My name is Darren Conley. I am a local tech entrepreneur here in Kitchener-Waterloo. Joining me as always is my co-host, fellow tech entrepreneur Stephen Campbell. How are you doing today, Stephen?
You know it's coming up. It's next week and it's pitch day.
Pitch day for Conestoga College. Yep.
I'm really excited about it. Can't wait. We're going to go. We get to go check out the space because it's at the new Cambridge campus.
Yep.
So they've got a whole bunch of new stuff over there. We're going to check it out beforehand, I think, on Thursday.
Yep.
And then it's the 24th, so that's Tuesday between 4 and 8 o'clock. Conestoga College Pitch Day. So we're anticipating sort of 15 or so pitches in 4 different categories.
Yeah, a bunch of money on the line, which is good. And we have one of the dragons from the Dragon's Den coming in to judge. Mike. I can never remember how to pronounce his last name.
I always want to put a Lee on the end of it, like Weckerly.
Right.
I don't think there's a... Is that
Weckerly.
It is Weckerly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
He's our landlord.
It's a good thing that we learned that before we talk to him, because we are planning to talk to him as part of our podcast that week. And we should let people know that our podcast for the week of March, typically we record March 23rd on the Monday, but we will be recording on the Tuesday instead and covering what's going on at Pitch Day. So hopefully talking to some of the judges, talking to Mike, talking to the people who are pitching, some of the winners, some of the, we won't say losers, but some of the people who didn't quite win some money, kind of get a bit from every side of the I don't know, of the table. Every side of
the pitching apple.
stage.
Looking at the pitching apple from all different angles.
Sure.
So we're excited about it.
I don't know where you get the metaphors, but sure, man.
I don't know.
The pitching apple.
It's a book I have.
So we'll be posting a day late for the podcast that week, but hopefully it'll be worth it, and we'll have some interesting stuff. But today we are here at Auvik, and we are privileged to have Mr. Marc Morin.
That's correct.
Marc Morin. Usually I stumble over the names a little bit, so I always have to be sure. Marc is the CEO of Auvik and founder, and has been involved, we heard, in several startups in the past. So we're hoping today that we can, get a chunk of your wisdom and your experience, and maybe hear about some of the highs and lows of your past startup experience. So thank you for joining us today.
Oh,
Marc.
thanks for having me.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm always excited to talk to somebody that's not their first circus.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
We're usually at Communitech with some startups that are a little earlier stage than you are here. So it looks like you've been funded and have a beautiful office and several employees. And
More than several, I think.
We're several times 30. So we're excited to talk to a mature startup today.
Yeah,
for sure.
We're used to startups of 2 or 3 people. So, and just so you know, for our listeners who can't see this place, I think you have how many employees here? 30.
We have 30.
30. Mm-hmm. Okay, 30 employees. Beautiful office, lots of open space, lots of inspirational slogans around the place. I think I saw something like "awesome" or "quit" or something.
Awesome or bust.
Awesome or bust.
Awesome or
bust. And a few other things up around. So before we kind of dive into your past, Marc, because we know there's a lot to dive into there, let's talk a little bit just about Auvik and what Auvik does. Maybe you could give us the the 1 minute pitch, for what Auvik does.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Auvik is making enterprise software for mid-size enterprises, and its job and mission in life is to make it dramatically easier for the IT department to manage their IT network resources. So switches, routers, Wi-Fi access points, that kind of thing.
Okay. And how do you guys make it easier for them?
Largely by our software takes care of all the complexities around managing and understanding what to do. So we see the trend towards networking moving from something that requires a lot of skill to something that's more like electricity, something that the office manager could run. So it's our software's job to take care of all the complexities about the different kinds of vendors, different kinds of software, what technologies to use, how to configure it, how to stay on top of it. we do all that all automatically for them.
Wow.
This is like a WordPress for networking.
Yeah, you could view it that way. It's a similar sort of, between text editing and what you see is what you get editing jump in terms of usability for sure.
Cool.
Wow.
I like that.
And as the founder, did you decide one day just to build this thing yourself, or?
So there's 3 founders, myself and 2 others. This was back in 2011 we started this one, and we spent a year trying to figure out what we were going to do with our next adventure, which was this one.
Yeah.
Went through a number of different ideas and concepts and eliminated, but ultimately settled in on trying to really disrupt, I don't like that word, but disrupt
That's the buzzword.
I know,
Yes.
but I'll use it.
Congratulations. Can you check that off now that we've got one buzzword already?
Did I use that
Excellent.
buzzword? There you go. The networking space.
Right. Okay. Excellent.
So my 2 other founders are, Alex Hoff, who I worked with previously at Sandvine,
Yep.
and David Yaw, who was the CTO at BlackBerry.
Okay, excellent. And what's your? I know you're the CEO here, but as far as what you contributed in the early stages, were you writing code? Were you doing pitches? Were you?
What do you mean we're writing code? I still do.
You're still doing it?
Every
Okay.
day.
I just assume once you're at that point, you have flunkies that take care of that stuff.
No. I'm a coder at heart. I love coding.
Okay.
So I do it every day.
Excellent. And you do it every day for the business or just for fun?
For the business,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does that work? How does the Top Dog code? What are you pulling something from the repository, or what parts, or what
whatever
piece, without getting too technical, because you'll confuse me.
Whatever features need to be done. Again, most of the code at the beginning, it was myself and 2 others. We wrote most of it, and then not anymore in terms, but still get involved whenever we have to.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I try not to break things.
Yeah.
But I can't. I can't guarantee that.
I've heard some CEOs talk about that's my only job is to break things. And everybody else has to fix it, right?
Yeah. Hopefully it's not things don't get too broken around here.
The harder your job is to break something, the better everybody else is doing.
That's right. That's right.
So 2011 was not too long ago, and you guys seem to be doing well for yourselves here. What was that journey like from the time you spent a year trying to figure out what it was going to be? You decided, let's do this. Did it take a while to get some traction? I mean, you had some kind of big names involved right from the start. We were talking.
Yeah, so we spent a year trying to figure out what we were going to do, and then probably the better part of another year raising funds.
Okay.
Getting ready, that kind of thing. And then the next year and a half or so building the product. So we've just launched our product in January, so it's just recently.
Oh, in January, like
this year, 2015.
3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
So it sounds like it's a long time ago, but
right.
there's a lot of interesting technology that we've developed and took time and money. That's why it takes time and money.
Of course. Wow. And have you found the market has been
receptive?
Receptive.
Yeah,
for
sure. They're real excited about our product in terms of what it encapsulates and the vision that it portrays.
Yeah.
So we're getting lots of people trialing. We have over 3,200 companies try our product and deploy it in their networks in some form.
Wow.
Now we're trying to crack the onion of getting them to pay for it and finding out what the secret formula there is and working through that.
Sure. They say it's all about product market fit, right? It doesn't matter how good the team is or how good the product is or whatever it is. If the market doesn't want it, then it's not going to work, right? If it does, then
it sounds like a new word, but it's always been the way, right?
Yeah,
If
course.
people don't want what you're building, you're not going to be successful. So you always have to chase product market fit. It's not like an event.
Right.
Every release, every new feature, even though you had it at some point, some competitor comes in or whatever, you're going to lose it.
Sure.
So you're always chasing that monkey, right, of product market fit.
Is there anybody else in this space? You've created a fairly blue sea or blue ocean for yourself.
Not really. This is networking's old stuff, right? Been around for a long time. Their network monitoring, network tools have been around forever. Largely, they've been focused at the network expert, tools to really help them do their job with a thin veneer of, let's say, abstraction, or the software would do very little other than present nice charts and stuff.
Sure.
Whereas ours is dramatically different. It's much thicker. The software does more things for you.
Right.
So that's viewed as different in the market and exciting in a market that's been around yet stagnant for a long time. So,
and I wonder if that's going to be one of the tricks to selling things, right? Companies are used to having that expert IT technician or network administrator that's taking care of all those hard jobs. So when you come in and say, oh, you don't need to have that level of expertise anymore,
so
it's
that's
an
not
adjustment, right?
Yeah, so that's not really the story we tell them, right?
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's largely about making your job easier because
Right.
these guys, again, are generally overworked, right? You've got IT guys that are running everything. They run your PCs, your desktops, your Wi-Fi phones, they're running your servers, they're running your mail, everything.
Yeah.
So we like to say, well, we'll just take care of the network for you. You can focus on all the other stuff.
Right.
Right.
Over time, we just see that the network, in terms of the innovation required in enterprise networking, has kind of matured and diminishing. So you really don't need that level of skill anymore long term.
Sure.
Not for other things in your enterprise, but certainly not for the network.
Okay. So your ideal customer, you said, is like
Mid-size.
Mid-size companies?
So
which
we
would
like to
be
say
what?
if you have a CIO in your company, you're too big.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And not because we don't think you'd benefit from our software. It's if you have a CIO, it generally means you have a large enough team.
And that's a chief innovation officer?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. My mom sometimes listens.
You probably have specialists that are real network geeks.
Yeah.
It's not that they wouldn't use the software, but they can do all this stuff themselves. We characterize the larger companies as being late adopters for this technology long term.
Okay.
Whereas the mid-sized guys, it's a small team group of guys. They're doing everything. They're all generalists.
So what would be the ideal company size for your product?
Probably, from people point of view, from 20 to 1,000,
Okay.
depending on the industry.
Sure.
Multiple branch offices, a little factory, whatever, because the network's complicated in that case.
Yep. And how would they, if they wanted to make use of Auvik's product, how would they go about doing that? Give you guys a call, set up a meeting,
No, they can go right to the website, sign up automatically, download our virtual machine that they install.
Yeah.
That connects to the cloud, and we map out their network automatically, discover things. So largely, they're up and running in 5 minutes.
Oh, wow. That's
right?
amazing.
So it starts showing them and graphically showing them their network, asking for some credentials, but it's dramatically different than a typical sale that they're used to, where they have to call the sales guy, get them to install, send them some software, and all that kind of stuff. It's just
Sure.
right away.
So at some point, does the software pop up and say, if you want us to keep doing the work for you, send us a check?
Insert 25 cents here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, trial's up. Please give us some money.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, or you're still kind of figuring out the monetization side, or do you?
No. It's going to be it's a monthly fee. So this is all a
fee.
SaaS play. So it's a hybrid
Gotcha.
SaaS. So everything runs in the cloud except these little agents that allow the cloud to reach into their network.
Okay.
But it's monthly fee. So many dollars per network element per month.
Okay.
How'd you ramp
Excellent.
up to 3,600 trial users?
So we built a fairly sophisticated and so this is all content. So all e-marketing techniques for these enterprises. So we've been invested heavily in that for the last year. So we've been quite good at being able to drive to our target audience and direct them to our site and sign up. So it's
Just
all
a
been
landing page,
online, that kind of marketing techniques.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
That's a big head start.
No,
You have
absolutely.
that many people that you can now
Talk
about putting a quarter in the
going
machine.
through or more. Like we have budgets for how many new trials a week and all that kind of stuff. So it's all good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Excellent. Well, we wanted to dive in a little bit, Marc, into some of where you've come from in the past here. The lovely lady who showed us in here, I've forgotten her name already.
Jackie Murphy.
Yes, there we go. This is why I keep Steven around. He remembers these things. Had said that you were doing Techstarbus back in like 2000 and selling things off. And
you've had an
seemed to do
illustrious
well for
career.
yourself.
Yeah, so this is my fourth startup.
Wow. So take us back there, or maybe even slightly before your first startup. You, I'm assuming, were a tech geek in your younger years, and
Yep, sure. I went to University of Waterloo right here in early 80s, from the 80s. So I'm not a young guy.
Yeah, neither are we. It's all good.
He looked at
in
me
the
when
80s,
he said that.
and got a job at Hewlett Packard, co-op job. Did most of my HP position or co-op jobs at HP. They moved in town. Took a job there. Was great. We were building window terminals. And spent 10 years actually working there. And that was a real important. If I had to sort of my story will start there, but it's all threads from there.
Right. Yeah.
In terms of how to run a business, how to do, what to look for, the processes for engineering, all that came from HP. The HP Way, which eventually came to Pickstream Way, Sandvine Way, Auvik Way, all stem from that. The group of people that we work with all sort of resonate through history, and we'll talk about that.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
So that was a real formative experience for myself.
So that was 10 years right out of school with
Right
HP.
out of school, yeah.
And
Tech military school.
Yep.
right? And did you decide to jump into the startup world right while you were at HP?
When we were at HP, I met a few guys, and one of them was Steve Baxo, who's in town, another guy. Started up another company and had some contract work for doing some digital television. So this is the time when there was no internet. Right. Internet was dial tone.
Right.
Oddly enough, we both remember that.
Yeah.
That's right.
And television was analog. We didn't have any digital television, no satellite, no cable modem, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff was happening at that time.
Yep.
So we started Pickstream in 1996.
Okay.
And there it was largely the focus eventually came into building hardware to help the television, or not television, the phone companies.
Okay.
Because then again, at that time, DSL was just starting to come out. They said, we're going to have high-speed internet. Oh my God, we're going to have to compete against the cable guys. They're going to provide internet. They have internet and TV. We need to provide entertainment TV services over DSL.
Yeah.
We need some gear to make that happen. So we built a bunch of head-end gear to help the telcos do that.
And are you like a hardware guy as well as a software guy? You say you write code, but
I'm a hardware guy. I'm an electrical engineer by school, but I've really gravitated towards the software.
Okay, right. So you're doing hardware, and Pickstream sounds like it's something graphics related. When I
it was
hear it, that's what I think.
Pixels,
Okay.
right, and Stream beating the network. So that's the company that was in '96.
Right.
VC funded, that kind of thing, back in the heyday.
Now that would have been right around the bubble, right?
Right in the midst of the bubble, and
Yeah.
we were selling products to all the CLECs, which are all the competitive local exchange characters, which was driving the internet bubble at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had trials around the world. Almost every telecom company around the world was trying to figure out how to do this. So we had trials with everybody.
So what kind of car are you driving at this time?
That time, I can't remember.
Okay. Fair enough.
But anyway,
Yes.
long story short, sold that company to Cisco December 2000.
Okay. Which was, now I'm trying to think, is this post-collapse or
Just
pre-collapse?
at the peak.
Oh, wow. So you sold at the exact perfect time.
Jumping out of the airplane
Wow.
with the parachute. That's
and
awesome.
Are you comfortable disclosing the amount the company sold for?
It's public. The company
okay.
was sold for $330 million US, which was 500 million Canadian at the time.
Wow. So I'm assuming you came out of that in not too bad a situation. You weren't scrambling to find the next job right away necessarily.
No, it was kind of funny. It was tell the stories. They built this company. There was lots of excitement. Cisco buys you. The deal, you get sued. The deal closes. The world collapses.
Right.
And then they shut you down 4 months later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just because of accounting reorganizations and stuff like that.
Wow.
So you end up working for them for 6 months and then decide to start up another company, which is Sandvine, which is
Okay.
largely the same group of people.
Right.
Okay. Right.
And at Pickstream, the core group of people were all HP people.
Oh,
So
okay.
that whole lineage is all HP people.
Right.
Wow. Okay, so you sold the company in 2000, and Sandvine was
September
the next thing?
2001.
You have
Okay.
the team in place.
Yeah,
Wow.
the day we were all working for Cisco until August 2001, and September 1st it was Sandvine.
Right. Just dive into Sandvine.
That's right.
Now, Sandvine is still around.
Yes.
And I know they're kind of a bigger name in the tech scene locally here, but for those who might be listening who don't know anything about what Sandvine is, maybe you can tell us a little bit about them too.
So continuing on that vein of helping the service providers and with internet in general.
Yep.
So Sandvine makes policy, or call it deep packet inspection gear that all the internet traffic flows through.
Right.
And it allows the service provider to, let's say, rearrange the traffic according to policies, whether it's fairness. Mm-hmm. And I like to say, 2 subscribers, one's paying $30 a month. We're both paying $30 a month for all-you-can-eat internet.
Yeah.
One's on all day, the other one's on every once in a while. Well, if they fight it out naturally, it's probably not fair. So organize the guy who's not using as much to have a better experience, not at the expense, but just put him at the front of the line instead of the back of the line is a way to do things. So it does that, or it can do a whole bunch of security things, a whole bunch of billing things.
Sure.
So largely now, if you're using, if you have internet through cable, DSL, any mobile traffic is probably going through Sandvine gear.
Right.
Somewhere in the world.
Now, when you were finished with Cisco, I'm sure there were many options, open to you. You're, well experienced in the field. You've had what appeared to be a good, successful buyout in the past. What made you say, I want to dive into another startup venture as opposed to getting hired at, a big name somewhere else? Or maybe, I guess, in the middle of the collapse, there might not have been a lot of hiring going on. I don't know.
Not a lot of options, right?
I'm unemployable now. There's no way I can work for anybody.
Right.
And how do you feel about that?
I like that.
It's freeing, isn't it?
Well, I like building, right? I'm an engineer. I like building stuff, and startup is the ultimate building vehicle. That's all you do, right? So
now, if you're an engineer, you're doing hardware, you're doing software, but so much of the startup world is going out there and slugging it out to raise the funds, assembling teams, kind of
creating
nose
that
to the
story.
grindstone and building up the traction that you need to get a product out there. I mean, do you find that you fit well with that aspect of the entrepreneurial experience as well, or would you rather just be the guy sitting there building stuff?
I'd say my natural inclination is I like to build stuff.
Sure.
But over the years, I've gotten a much more appreciation of what is important. The other sides of things are more important than how well the product is, because frankly, it's not always the best product that wins, and usually it isn't.
Right.
Right.
Fair enough.
First to market, or loudest voice, or cheapest price,
best marketing, frankly.
Best marketing.
Marketing and sales matter more than the product. Of course, you've got to have a product that's good enough.
Yeah.
Right?
A mediocre product with good marketing will often outdo a great.
Well, it's got to be good
with poor
enough,
marketing,
right? But obviously, an outstanding product with outstanding marketing can't. It's awesome.
Of course. Okay. So we've made it to the Sandvine years. You founded that company with a group of this group?
There was 5 of us. They were all from Sandvine. And I stayed there until 2008.
Okay.
I was the CTO at the time. Decided it was time to move on. So I left in 2008. And I had done a bunch of startup investments in different companies over time, and I still have. Yeah. And one of them wasn't working too well, and one of the guys decided to go into and work and go in and founded a company called Emporium. Okay. And that was to really harness and mine the vein at the time, this was the time when Facebook and all that stuff was just coming out. Yeah. Consumer internet to the consumer was just happening like crazy. Mobile devices, mobile apps, just starting to happen. Yeah. So
2008 was the year the iPhone was released.
Yeah,
just
right? Before iPhone. All right. Yeah. Or just the year before, I think it was, and everybody was enamored with the real shift about what technology can do for individuals in terms of the experience to individuals was a dramatic shift towards awesomeness, which is great. Yeah. But all the software you had at the office was still the old crusty old crap.
Yeah. Right.
So that was identified as being, a trend that's going to be fixed and needs to be fixed, and sort of built the Emporium to go after that, to say, well, largely non-technical companies have a hard time really integrating technology into a form that really helps them with their business. Right. Like everybody has computers, but it doesn't really help them run their business in some way at that time. Sure. So we said, well, every business is going to have internet presence of some form, a mobile presence of some form. It has an on-prem premise if it's a store, someone's going after retail stores. Right. Mm-hmm. So you really need those 3 to really work well together, right? Which means a whole suite of software needs to be redone. Right. So we started building the all-in software for that, for small retail stores. Wow. Great idea. People loved it. Largely, it screwed up. We screwed up on execution. A variety of things, but largely that was a really good idea, the right time. And you see the formula now going forward. There was lots of, all what I call all in for X companies, all in for Y. Right. Really reinventing the suite of software to run the business from top to bottom on the internet. Right. Sure. And so what was, I think I missed if you mentioned it, what was the reason why you think it
didn't take off?
It was
the
a combination.
execution?
It was an
Yeah.
execution. It was largely a couple things.
Target Canada?
No.
Had some trouble with execution.
So the growth. Recognize we went into markets that were existing. So we went into retail and jewelry retail first as a beta market, and bought some companies that had like that market. There's like think of point of sale software.
Yeah.
That's a part of the solution.
Right.
Yeah.
There's like 20 vendors of 20 point of sale software in retail jewelry.
Right.
like come on, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we were going to buy them all up and roll them up, and that's how we were going to grow and use that as a founding bed. Yeah. Well, it turns out we couldn't purchase them because unrealistic expectations on these were people's jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
It was 1 or 2 man companies. They didn't see that their company wasn't worth anything.
Right.
So we really couldn't get into a thing. So we had to grow organically, which caused a lot of long-term pain.
Right.
The technology was built on was open source, which was a weak foundation, which caused some problems, and the team dynamics weren't good.
Right.
So
a bit of a storm.
A bit of a storm. I closed that down in 2011.
Okay.
With the full expectation of rebooting it, starting over.
Yep.
Because it was such a good idea. The tracks, the customers loved the concepts. We just didn't quite deliver on it, right?
Sure.
So was going to redo that, but then came right into Auvik.
And how did you end up coming into Auvik?
Again, met Alex Hoff, who I worked with at Sandvine. Is a really, really brilliant guy, young guy, very energetic. And he had worked at Sandvine for 10 years.
Okay.
And wanted to go and start something, so he quit his job, and we said, well, "Hey, let's work together, and let's figure out what we're going to do." So, did this instead.
There you go. It surprises me, and you hear this a lot when you're reading about the experience of serial entrepreneurs, how people kind of build this core group around them throughout their experiences, and each new iteration or each new startup ends up being that same core group or 2 or 3 people from it, and then you find someone else who comes in, and maybe someone else goes out, and that's right. And but
especially here in Waterloo, it's such a community of support. And there's the history, like we've met some people, but you've got some deep history here in the area. We meet a lot of people that are reaping the benefits of some of the mentors and the people that have been here for a long time. Some of the young people that are excited, that are a 2-man team still.
But it really shows,
so it's really neat.
It demonstrates that importance of really building those bonds early in your career, quote unquote career, right? The kids who are graduating from Waterloo right now, who have found maybe another guy or another girl that they want to do some work with. These could be the people that carry your career for the next 15 or 20 years in one form or another, right? Depending how well you guys mesh. And
so it's like I said, it's my career and my success or wherever I am is attributable to my HP.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Without that, everything resonates through that, right? The group of people, the experiences, the extended family, there's spin-offs, people that have worked off and decided to go and do their own company. I fund them. Yeah. Like, it's just...
And having those resources, too, when you think, I've got to do X or whatever it is. Oh, I know so-and-so down the road who I used to work with that is involved in that aspect. I can call them up and, you have that connection right off the bat, which is great. Excellent. So maybe getting a little more kind of high level here, now that we've kind of got the history coming through, what have been, through that entire time, maybe what was one of the more difficult situations to deal with? One of the times where you felt like, I'm not being very successful here, but I am hopefully learning some stuff that's going to help me be successful later.
Was it the execution where you had to sort of lay it down after the storm that was difficult?
Certainly, the Emporium thing was you can't say it wasn't learning because it was learning, right?
Right. Sure.
And the real lessons, I've had time to reflect on it, and the real lessons I'd say are twofold. One, I was both the CEO and the funder, so I funded the company myself.
Sure.
And because I could.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing to do.
Okay.
And not because of the money. It's because convincing someone else to give you money is valuable.
Right.
It's hard. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But the burden is higher. than yourself. Just writing the check every month was easier than trying to convince someone.
Sure. So you're saying the process of having to put together that pitch, having to convince somebody else, having to go through all those tough questions that they're going to ask
and
you.
distill it down into real essence, and not being able to not fool yourself, but you can cut corners, right?
Sure.
In terms of difficulties on the team, whatever, is that the right team? You can avoid those things. Whereas if you're being forced, you can't.
You have to look at the gorilla in the room often when you're talking to somebody else about it, because they're like, well, what about the big thing? And when it's yourself.
So I've come to that realization as an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur's job is not to fund the company.
Right.
I don't care how much money you have, because that's not the role. You're not, you can fund it, but you got to wear two hats. One is you're an investor.
Yep.
And then you're the entrepreneur.
Right.
Right. And they don't have to touch each other.
Right.
But do you think it's important to have some vested interest that's on a financial level?
Absolutely not.
No, not at all.
None.
Okay. Because you often hear that, right?
It makes no difference. Like for a true entrepreneur, the money is not the thing.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So it doesn't matter.
Yep.
So I've got financial interest in this company, and I put some money in, all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't change how much I work, how much I care about it, how committed I am to it at all.
Sure.
As soon as I'm not committed to it, I'm gone. And it's not because I have money in it or anything.
Right. Yep.
Sure.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I can ask too. So you've been around in the region here for a while now. How have you kind of seen the evolution of the tech startup scene here in Kitchener-Waterloo? Here on the podcast, we are kind of making our focus the tech startups in this particular region. But both Stephen and I are relatively new to this area. I've lived here less than 2 years. Stephen, I'm not sure.
I was born in Guelph, but left for 20 years. So.
So we haven't really seen it right through from the early, pre BlackBerry days in the same way that you have. So maybe just give us a little bit of a.
Yeah, what's the state of the union these days for the?
Well, certainly back in the day, there was no startups were not glamorous.
Sure.
Right? There were lots of companies around, small companies. RIM was across the street, and OpenText was down the street, and Maple was over here. And everyone aspired not to work to those companies. They aspired to work for large companies.
Right.
That's where the prestige was, and that's where you learned things. That's changed dramatically. And VCs, even though we were VC funded in our first company, the only reason I had was one of my schoolmates at UW was a VC, and I didn't even know. And I went to my class reunion. I said, "Hey, I'm starting this company." He's like, "Hey, I invest." I didn't even know what it was.
Here's some money.
I don't even know what a VC
I'll
is.
Give you some money. I've got
Very cool.
I got to get to a class reunion or two.
So the other lesson here is every one of those class reunions I go to, because it's been. Every time it's been every 5 years, you go back, and it's people like that come back.
Yeah.
So it's history. The people you meet resonate throughout your entire career.
Right.
So don't be an asshole, and don't piss off and burn bridges.
Yeah.
If you take anything away from this podcast, don't be an asshole.
Yeah. Right.
That's what you need to keep in mind.
I like that. That's really gonna come in handy for the Fold versus Scrunch controversy, but that's later. Anyway,
we'll leave that to later in the podcast. Excellent. Okay. Where was I here? Okay, so in the early days, it wasn't prestigious.
So one end of so it's like a pendulum, right?
Yeah.
One end, it was like almost no startups.
Yep.
No ecosystem.
Yep.
It's kind of swing the other way. There's lots of lots of startups, lots of environments for incubating them. You may argue it might have gone too far.
Right.
Too much support. Too much money.
Too much support. Too much money. Less. What I mean is by that is you got to solve a real problem. Like we went back to, you got to solve a problem that people actually want to pay for.
Right.
And usually that resonates around something you know about.
Right.
And if you don't come right out of school, you're in, the circle of things the problem domain that is fairly small.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's not worth going after, but it's going to be, there's lots of people in there, right?
Yep.
All the students have the same problem.
Yep.
There's lots of problems.
Solve a real problem.
Solve a real problem. The trouble is there's lots of real problems to solve in the world. It's just you don't know what they are.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I tell people it's probably the better for them if they really want to start a company. Probably the best thing they should do is go and get jobs.
Right.
and change every year for 5 years, and then start your company, because you'll
Right.
find out where you should go.
Right. Find out
And
what those problems are.
Find out real
there, yeah.
problems,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to another farting app or whatever.
You've heard about the farting app.
I've heard.
Lord
I heard
knows
they
we have
exist.
enough
Yeah.
farting apps.
We're
yeah.
working on that.
Fair enough.
Big data. You know.
So have you found, now that you've started a startup, 15 years ago or longer, and now this recent one with Auvik has been just, I guess your product was just launched in January, so very recent.
The baby was just born.
How was the experience of doing the startup back then, different than now? I guess now you have a little more, prestige. If you're starting something, people are going to take notice in a way that they wouldn't for a guy just straight out of university. But
Venture capitalists will take your call.
That's right. But how has the evolution of the ecosystem here made it a different experience, starting Auvik compared to when you were doing Pickstream? Yeah.
Certainly just because of experience, you're more confident. You know what needs to be done and how to do it, because you've done it before.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So that makes it easier. So therefore, you're more confident.
Sure.
That's the one thing.
Sure.
Certainly, in terms of is it easier to get money? No.
Okay.
Right? Is it easier to get meetings? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
have you been able to, maybe at your stage of things, you don't have to avail yourself so much with the resources that you might get through a Communitech or the Accelerator Center or some of the other
Incubators.
So we never participate. Again, it's a different crowd and for a different audience.
Right. Right.
So we don't avail ourselves to that kind of stuff.
Fair enough. What about the talent pool? So you still have Waterloo in town here. Have you seen the level of talent?
It's shifted for sure, because certainly with BlackBerry's issues.
Yeah.
There was a time, certainly during Sandvine days, when it was BlackBerry heyday.
Right.
You couldn't pull anybody from BlackBerry. It was like a black hole, and that circle of individuals, people never interfered and never talked to anybody else. It was like a universe to itself.
Right.
Certainly because of the layoffs and the issues they've had, that talent pool has spread out and started populating every other way. So like here in Auvik, I'd say half the company is probably somehow related to BlackBerry, whereas that was not the case before.
Sure.
And that mixing and cross-pollination of the family trees is a really good thing.
Sure. And I wonder how many people are going to have a story, say 10 years from now.
I started
people
with
who work
Auvik.
at your company who say, we started a BlackBerry and then we did this thing on Auvik and now we've moved on to create the next big whatever.
Sure.
Right? Which will be interesting to see. Absolutely. Well, listen, should we move into the lightning round?
One more question. So,
go for it. Steve.
Auvik is a block of ice that you use to make an igloo with?
Yeah. It's
so was that a marketing decision, or how did you get there with this Inuit word?
Yeah, so that's naming a company is always hard, right? Because you want a good word, and what's a good word? A good word is short. Domains available, people can pronounce it in different languages, blah, 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 blah. So, everyone's mined English, they've mined Latin, all this kind of stuff. So we said, well, we're Canadian, we can mine something in what's Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's mine the Inuit language. So we learned some things about the Inuit language that I didn't know.
Right.
Which is almost anything.
Which is almost anything. Because I didn't know anything about it.
I'm right there with you.
But what's interesting about it is it's almost like a Huffman coding. So what I mean by that is things that are very frequent or very important are short.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Things that don't happen very often or whatever are very long. And it's like German, you put words together. So it can be very long words.
Right.
So things like run, there's a polar bear coming at you is going to be like really short. Right. It's really important.
And often.
Right? So we mined, and again, looking for a word, we found Auvik, which is, we spell it with a K, A-U-V-I-K, which is, I don't know if it's the right answer, but it's A-V-U-I-Q is the technical.
It's not Latin traditional, but
it's translation. But anyway, we use it with a K.
In the actual language, I'm sure it's written in its own script. Anyway.
It's got a triangle, a thing.
Yeah, when you're running from the polar bear, you're not like, was that a Q or was that a K? I'm sorry.
That's right. My background's in linguistics, so I know a little bit about how that stuff works. That makes sense, Yeah,
so that was my last question. I just, the marketing and the conceptualization and the brainstorming is fascinating.
It's a good question. I should have thought of that myself.
No, please. That's why you keep me around.
Excellent. No, that's
so let's
great.
do some lightning round.
Yes. So we've There's our sound effect. Thank you, man.
Yep. We're going to do some funding Indiegogo campaign for some sound effects.
For some sound effects? Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we'll spend our next $300. Thank you, by the way, Conestoga College, for giving us $100.
Yes, the Conestoga.
We've already spent it several times over. But
education fund, yeah.
Can you send some more?
Yes.
Exactly. So the lightning round, we have 10 questions we're just going to throw at you. You don't have to answer quickly or anything. It's not a real contest, but
definitely get bonus points.
Yeah, just some shorter answers that we want to throw at you and see what you come up with. So question number 1, give one piece of advice for new startups in 5 words or less. We might have heard it before. Don't be an asshole. But if you have another one.
So I'd say is startups are difficult and 5 words or less.
Startups are difficult is 5.
5 words is
but it's not really advice, I guess.
Advice, 5 words or less. Like I said, make sure people want it.
Make sure people want it. Perfect.
I like
that
it.
That works. Excellent. Okay, question number 2. How many hours do you work per day?
12.
Wow.
7 days a week.
This is a
Wow.
break. This is a break, by the way. This isn't working.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, number 3. Who is your ideal investor? I'm assuming you have investors for Auvik.
Yes.
Are any of them your ideal investor, or what would that person look like? Yeah.
Very well done.
Money.
They have money? Okay.
Yeah. So I don't count on my investors providing anything but money.
Okay.
Sounding board.
Yeah.
If they can bring other things to the table, that's great, but I don't count on it.
Okay. Excellent. I guess when you've been around as long as you have,
no, it's just there's really there are
right?
2 different classes of investors. There's the large valley-based VCs that are extremely well connected, and then there's everyone else.
Right. Fair enough. And if you have money, it'll work. Okay, great. Question number 4: what is one startup skill that you need to get better at?
Personally, sales.
Okay. I could see that.
It's hard to sell it when you're building it, right?
I personally hate sales, and so I can understand how that would be.
I love sales. I just don't like doing it personally.
Right. That's what I should say. I would like making sales. I just don't like having to actually do it.
Hey, there's some Eskimos out there that need ice cubes very badly.
That's right.
That's right. What is one startup skill, if you can name just one startup skill that you feel that you've mastered?
Be able to sell the vision, conceptualize and sell a vision.
Okay. That's the perfect skill for a CEO.
Yeah.
That's good. Number 6, Mac, PC, or Linux?
Mac.
All right.
Not even a heartbeat. You see that? I like that.
Just can't
Been
write
Mac
out.
since 2007 or whatever.
You know the next one.
All right, perfect. Number 7, Android or iPhone?
iPhone.
iPhone, all right. We could have asked BlackBerry in the mix, but I didn't want to put anybody on the spot.
Anybody that ever answers iPhone, he always inserts snarky comment right after. So
No,
he
that
just,
wasn't
there's just a
snarky.
BlackBerry. Yeah,
Understand.
I missed the snark there.
I'm personally an Android user, but it's all good.
There it is.
Number 8, fill in the blank. I am secretly terrified of... you don't have to get too deep.
Big waves.
It could be spiders. I don't know.
Closed-in spaces.
Closed-in spaces.
Claustrophobia.
Okay. All right. I understand that. Number 9, fill in the blank. If I could have any drink in my hand right now, it would be...
Beer.
All right. Any particular brand?
I'm not picky.
All right. It's
money,
like,
beer.
It's like the VC, yeah.
Just give me money.
It's
I love
all
it.
good. And number 10. Now this question usually works well for the young guys who are doing their first startup. I don't know how it'll work for you. So we usually ask, what's the first purchase you're going to make after you're bought out by Google? You've already been bought out in the past once. So maybe like, did you in the past make some big, I'm going to buy this thing just to make myself feel good kind of purchase when your first company got bought out?
I like cars, so I bought a car.
Okay.
Sports car. I still have it.
Okay.
So you do remember the car you were driving earlier then?
It's not the car I drive in the day. It's the car I drive in the summer. I still drive it. And every year I say I should get a new one, but it's still better than I am. So
Sure.
What is it? What'd you get?
GT3, a Porsche GT3.
Oh, nice.
Excellent.
Well, I didn't. I got 3 or 4 cars before then, and then settled eventually on that one.
Yeah.
Right.
As the car treat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to sample the good ones for a little while first before you land on them. Okay, and the bonus question is toilet paper, fold or scrunch?
Scrunch.
Yes. Scrunch.
Wow.
Big win for the scrunches today.
Man, I'm telling you, when we tally these Fuller scrunch results, I think it'll be interesting, but that's for another podcast.
Oh, it'll be interesting, but I don't know what it'll tell us.
Fair enough. Marc, if there are people out there that want to find out more about Auvik, just give us maybe where we can find you online. You have a website, you have a Twitter account.
It's on the website's fine. You know, www.auvik.com, AUVIK.
Okay, excellent. And they can sign up right there, if they fit the profile to.
Well, they can try it if they want, even if they don't. Doesn't really mean we're not going to kick you off.
Okay,
until the trial's over.
Perfect. Okay, of course.
And we can also convert you. We won't just kick you right off.
That's right.
It's an opportunity to sign up and continue.
That's right. Perfect. All right. Well, let's wrap things up there, guys. So first of all, we'll say a special thanks to our guest, Marc Morin. Thanks for joining us today and sharing your wealth of past experience. That was great. Thank you to Auvik for letting us use their wonderful office space to record here. And thanks to you, our listener, for joining us on another episode of TSP Weekly. Please feel free to send us your comments, your questions, your criticisms, your feedback. Our email address is feedback@tspweekly.com. Or you can send us a message on Twitter. That's what most people end up doing anyway. Our Twitter handle is @TSPweekly. Just at TSP Weekly. So you can find us there. So from myself, Darren Conley, from my co-host, Stephen Campbell, and from our guest, Marc Morin from Auvik, thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll see you all again next week.
Have a great week.